Hey everybody, it's Christina Louise. Welcome back to Parenting for a Peaceful Home. Today I'm really excited about our talk today with parenting coach Leslie Potter, who is with us to talk about shadow energy, to share with you exactly what that means, and to clue you in to the idea that perhaps your children with their erratic behaviors are reflecting some deeply subconscious issue that they're helping you bring to the surface. Just keep your mind open as we explore Leslie. Hi, Leslie. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
You're so welcome, Christina. Yes, keep the minds open. Take what works. Let go of the rest. That's what I always say.
So, okay, first of all, what do you mean shadow self? What does that mean?
Well, for me, the shadow self, I like to describe it in simple terms. It's usually our repressed emotions or material that we had to, as children, learn to repress to survive in the families that we lived in, which was a very smart thing to do as a child. But all that energy didn't go anywhere. All your unmet needs are still there. They're way down underneath. And what we do is we organize our life around trying not to feel certain feelings. Because as children, we would get in trouble for them. Right? So we, like for me, I never got married. That was one way to organize my life to never feel abandoned or rejected or any of those things. But when I became a parent, hello, all of those repressed feelings start to arise because our children are experiencing all those in their emotional development. So as our children are experiencing feelings of abandonment or rejection, like my daughter, and I'm not able to tolerate those and be with those, then my shadow material starts to come up and I start to play that out with my daughter instead of working with it internally.
So let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So as children, we have needs that can't always be met by the people around us.
Yep.
And so that causes perhaps frustration or anger or sadness within us.
Yes.
And then we try to express those feelings by throwing a temper tantrum maybe, or yelling or screaming, right?
Yes.
And we're not allowed to do that, right? Our parents tell us don't do that. So you're saying that that energy, that sadness, that anger, that trauma at the end of the day doesn't go anywhere, just kind of stays with us bottled up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it goes down below. You can think like a file cabinet. It goes kind of in the lower cabinets, right?
Right.
And when we're told, let's say you act out, you have a tantrum or you hit someone and you're told that you're mean, you're rude, you're bad, you're selfish. Who wants to be those? A little kid doesn't want to be those things. So we do all our work. We try to repress those feelings, but you can't. I mean, they're always bubbling up. So instead of teaching children how to be with their feelings and tolerate them and have a pause so they can behave in a way that's appropriate, we begin to start to repress the feelings. We try to control the behavior, but the feelings never go away. They're just down underneath. And then we become pleasers, or we become defiant kids and act like we don't care. It's usually because the feelings aren't having a place to resolve and to just be feelings, not who we are.
So now we grow up and we become parents, and then what happens?
Well, our children are going through that same process. So let's say, I'll give you an example of my daughter. I adopted her at 9 months from China. So my daughter, her core vulnerability, she was abandoned and rejected, right? So of course she's going to have those feelings that are going to awaken. Well, I never wanted to feel those feelings because I had an early experience of that. So then when my daughter's feelings need to come up and process with a healthy person, it was so intense for me. I never wanted her to feel abandoned or rejected, which was crazy. It's like I wasn't serving her because that's just a feeling, right? And so now for her to be able to come back and heal in that, she gets to feel those feelings in a safe environment because I'm not leaving. Right. So when she would start to feel those feelings, when I would set a personal boundary, let's say, when I would say no, and she would start to experience those, it would trigger my feelings of abandonment and rejection. And then we would just go at it. We would start to fight because I didn't want to feel those. Right. So what I began to learn was if I could start to go back and feel the core feelings that felt very dangerous as a child, then I could actually make a space in our family for my daughter to feel those. They're just feelings.
And then what happened?
when we did that, when I'm able to do that?
Yeah,
Well, I'll give you an example. My daughter is very, very good in her no. She's able to say no very well. Well, you can imagine for me having feelings of abandonment and rejection. When she says no, I feel abandoned sometimes. I feel rejected, right? So before I did this work, I used to act like a rejected person. So let's say I would say, sweetheart, do you want to go to dinner? She'd go, no, thank you. And I would be like, well, just forget it. I don't like you anyway, or I don't want to go with you. That's acting like a rejected person, right? It's very young. So then when I got able to just feel the feelings, right? Every time she says no, I still feel abandoned and rejected, but I get to be kind to that part in me. And I don't have to act like I'm a rejected person. I do have to feel the feeling because it's there, but I don't have to act like a rejected person. And then when I don't act like a rejected person, this is the coolest part. I can look out at my daughter from the adult perspective, and I am so excited that she can say no. I get so excited that my daughter has a healthy personal boundary, right? So that's from my adult. But if I see it from my child, I hear the no, then I feel like the wounded, I position myself as a victim. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn to feel a lot of those feelings again, because you can imagine those are the core feelings in my family. Because I have an adopted daughter, I had some abandonment and rejection. So until I learned to work with those as feelings instead of acting like I was an abandoned person or acting like she was an abandoned child, it was pretty chaotic. A lot of rage, a lot of intensity in our home. Mm-hmm. So she was mirroring, as you said at the beginning, she was mirroring back my own fear of feeling abandoned and rejected. Mm-hmm. So now it's great. I can just, she says no, and I'll just go, bleh, and then walk out, and then we laugh.
Right. So it's interesting, like you're saying, I'm giving myself permission to feel these feelings when we live in this culture that's conditioned us to not feel our feelings, to drink them away, to smoke them away, to gamble them away, to buy them away, to blame them on other people, to bottle them up, to be a tough person. Absolutely. Now here you come saying, no, it's essential for you to feel these feelings, but what happens if we're scared? I mean, what's on the other side of feeling these feelings? Will you share your experience about that, please?
Absolutely. Well, what I did in this process, because I had to do this for myself, I don't teach anybody anything I haven't had to do. So I created a process called the Safe Seat process. And in the Safe Seat process, what I did was I created a safe place to take that one in me that was having those feelings, to find out, were they really dangerous? Right? Because we were conditioned to believe that they're dangerous. Mm-hmm. We think our feelings are more powerful than they actually are. They're actually just feelings, right? So when I would go to the safe seat and I would actually be able to feel the feelings and the sensations, they were really, really intense. So I really began to understand how as a child, I couldn't tolerate those. So of course I hit or I bet or I did whatever. As an adult though, I began to investigate and find out that those feelings aren't dangerous. They're my life force. They're my energy. They're my aliveness, because you're talking about drinking or doing all that. It's all to dull us down, right? And I wanted my life force. I wanted to be alive. My life force allows me to be in the present moment with my daughter. It allows me to have a relationship versus parenting for the future or parenting for my fear of the past. So when I began to realize it's very uncomfortable to feel those feelings, but it's not dangerous, miraculously, I began to come more alive. And then my relationship with my daughter became extremely vital. In the moment, I wasn't always, let's say one of the examples I like is like when your kid hits, the first thought you have is they're going to be a serial killer. Right? I mean, that's where the mind goes, right? So that doesn't allow me to stay in that moment, that in this moment, my child is having a big feeling. They hit, that feelings drive behavior. That's the biggest thing we have to remember. Feelings drive behavior. So my child, if they just hit, means they have such a big feeling going inside that only thing they know how to do is to hit. Right? So if I understand as an adult that I can tolerate the feeling and build this pause, because the pause is the most critical piece where I can actually go, okay, I'm just having a feeling. They have proven it takes about 90 seconds on a physiological level for a sensation, when it starts to rise in the body, it takes about 90 seconds for it to go all the way through its cycle like a wave and then come back to regulation. Well, about 30 seconds in, 10 seconds in, that's when we act, or we, reach out, or we scream at our kids. And if we can learn to contain that, not repress it, but contain that life force so we can grow ourselves up to be adults versus acting. Children can't hold for 90 seconds, right? They're not able to. They're very young emotionally. They're learning to grow. So as parents, when we learn to do that and we can hold for 90 seconds, then the way I see it is I grow myself back up and I realize I've got an underdeveloped child. It's appropriate. My child is not developed emotionally. Mm-hmm. And as I say, we don't expect a child to come out of the womb knowing how to read, right? We teach them. They have to learn ABCs. We don't expect them to come out and know how to walk. But we do expect them to come out and be emotionally adult often. We expect them to emotionally know how to contain their feelings and how to be nice and appropriate and all this. So it's so crazy to think that a 2-year-old can contain when we can't even do it as adults. So that's what I found. I couldn't even do it as an adult, but I was asking my daughter to do it.
Now, what's the difference between containing, holding, and repressing?
Well, repressing means, I can't feel this feeling. It's bad. It's wrong. I've got to get rid of it. I've got to drink it away. I got to do something with it. It starts to rise and I can't take it. So I've got to get rid of it. I got to keep it down in the file cabinet, right? Containment means, or that I'm going to let that sensation, I like to do it on a sensation level, even more than a feeling level. I'm going to let that sensation be in my body and I'm going to actually be with it. I'm not going to move away. I'm not going to avoid. I'm not going to try to get rid of it. I'm actually going to feel it. Why? Because it's my life force. It's happening inside of me. So especially with anger, so if I can feel that intensity, it's like hot heat and the energy rises up in my head. If I can stay with that and create a container, that's what we're thinking, like the safe seat for me is a container, then it doesn't bleed out or it doesn't attack my child. Or as I say, when I'm triggered, I'm not a parent actually. So when I'm in that triggered state, if I try to relate with her, I'm relating from that repressed feeling, not from my adult stance. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me, but let's just define some terms here. So we're talking about sensation.
Yes.
So sensation is like that burning feeling or a stabbing feeling, or maybe like a feeling like somebody's sitting on us. It's like a physical happening in the body, right? Absolutely. And you keep referring to feelings and emotions. Do you mean the same thing as feeling, emotion?
Let's go back to sensations, because that's the best way to experience a trigger. Let's say you've asked your kid to pick up their clothes 3 or 4 times, right? And they don't listen to you. This is a big one for especially mamas, not being heard. And then all of a sudden you start to feel this sensation inside. You feel this intense heat. I know for me, it always happens in my chest here. Sometimes my stomach can go out. I can feel the heat rising up. So the sensation is what actually wants to punch out, right? Because I don't think that I can contain it. So I just want to get rid of it. And the way I want to get rid of it is probably to scream. So now I'm going to scream at my child, right? So if I'm able to notice it's a sensation, and I will call that a trigger. So the description I use of a trigger is when we are moving back into a past memory. So let's say your child's not listening to you. All that's happening actually in that moment is your child is preoccupied and they're into their own world and they're not paying attention. But as a child, if you had someone that didn't listen to you over and over and over, and you didn't get heard, and you felt powerless, you felt like a victim because you were trying to say something and they would say, "Don't talk back to me." Or you were trying to say something, they said, "Go to your room." Or you were trying to express something, and of course you didn't do it so well. You were a teenager or you were a young kid, but someone didn't want to hear you. So now with your child, you've got all these sensations coming up and you start to feel like a victim again. You start to feel powerless. And who wants to feel that? If you aren't able to repress it, because you're tired, you haven't slept well, you haven't eaten too well, you haven't done your self-care. All of a sudden you can imagine it's like a volcano, and you're doing everything you can with those sensations, and you're trying to sit on them. And then all of a sudden it's too much because you've said it the 5th time, and they maybe looked at you and rolled their eyes. And then what happens? You attack, right? So that's kind of how it happens. But if we can start to work with it on a sensation level, we can begin to contain the sensation. And my experience is when I'm able to do that, it literally goes like a wave. It comes, it's intense. I'm able to be with it. I'm offering kindness. That's that secret ingredient I was telling you about for our parenting, is kindness toward ourselves. So if I've got all this intensity arising, if I can offer kindness to that and stay with myself and not engage with my child, in about 90 seconds, all of a sudden, it's like I just grew up and I have these new adult glasses on, and I can look over and I can go, oh, isn't that interesting? I just asked my child to stop watching their show without even telling them where we were going. Or isn't that interesting that my child was not listening because they're creating the most beautiful art project. They were so in their work and they were consumed in it. Oh, isn't that interesting? Yes. And from that adult perspective, it really gets interesting. Now I have enough separation. I've done my own work. I've stayed with my feeling. In that separation, I'm able to see that my child is not a threat. They're not out to get me. They're not out to make my life miserable. They're 4 years old, like I say, and creating a masterpiece. Or I came in, I waited and waited and waited, and then I came in at the last minute and demanded that they come downstairs. It's like I start to see my part in the dynamic. Mm-hmm. And I start to realize, oh, I'm the adult. And if I have a child that's not listening, I'm the one who's got to get creative. I don't expect that child to take care of that unmet need in me. It's crazy to think a 4-year-old is going to meet a need that you never got met. It's not going to happen.
Most people don't realize that that's what they're doing. I see this every day at playgrounds and schools and in grocery stores. These parents are unfortunately treating their 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, even 14-year-olds. I'm being reminded right now, I was in a grocery store and there was a teenager who obviously wasn't getting her way, and she kicked something. She clicked like a display, and it didn't, nothing fell. She wasn't trying. You could tell I could tell she was just really overwhelmed and really frustrated, and she had to move that energy. And she kicked it, and her parents completely lost it and just swarmed in on her. What I'm hearing you say is that kindness for ourselves and compassion for ourselves and our child means that they can feel free to express themselves in even ways that don't seem to fit in to today's culture. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And what I had to find out is what I really wanted to be a conscious parent, but I found out I could not give my daughter what I hadn't given myself. So I tell parents, what I hate in myself, I hate in my daughter. What I love in myself, I love in my daughter. So if I don't like something in her, if I say, oh, I don't like that, I have to go back and say, well, I don't like that in me, right? And so when I began to realize that I didn't want to raise my daughter for this culture, I personally am not so into the culture right now. It's not very supportive. It's not very kind. It's really difficult. It feels like we are in a very, very difficult time in our culture. I decided I wanted to create a home where, as I told you, I called them parenting pods. I wanted to create a little pod where I had the control to create the environment I wanted to create, which was one of kindness, which was one of listening, understanding, one of generosity, one of making space for all feelings to be welcome. It doesn't mean it's comfortable. It's not like we don't have all the feelings arising. I didn't want a dead, peaceful house, which was what I was trying to create when I was repressing everything and trying to make everything perfect. We have a very vital, alive house. We yell every now and then, but it's so quick. we get in and we get out and we go, whoa, what was that? And I use a lot of humor. If she gets mad at me and goes and slams the door, my first question is, how was I not safe? Not let me take those hinges off the door because she was disrespectful. Right? I know.
Tears to my eyes. I'm just...
Right? Because I'm the adult. That's my job. So I go, how was I not safe? I was a threat. Right? And so we laugh. I go knock on the door and I go, are you still mad at me? You still mad at me? And then she goes, get out, get out. And we close the door and I come back and I knock again. So we have a lot of beauty in our home. And like you're feeling right now. It's like, wow.
Yeah, that's so
touching.
Beautiful. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that, so let's just use that example. So your daughter goes to her room, she slams the door, and then you ask yourself, what?
I asked myself, how was I not safe? Because clearly I was a threat emotionally to her, which means most likely I had an agenda. I was either trying to push her or pull her because I wanted her to do something that made me look good, right? I know my daughter better than anybody in the world. I know how to get into her heart. I have to tell you a really sweet story here. When she was 6 years old, we had a fight. And I went into her and I was like, how am I supposed to get into your heart? She goes, Mama, there's a little tiny crack in my heart and it's your job to get through it. That's what my 6-year-old told me. So I took that to heart. So I know when my daughter opens the door. It's when I'm kind. It's when I'm taking responsibility for my own feelings. It's when I'm listening. When she goes and slams the door, my question is, what was going on in here? How was I not safe? I tried to barge into her room, or I tried to barge into her business, or I tried to force myself. And the reason I ask that question is because I'm the adult. And I agree to create a safe emotional container for my child. So if my child is acting out and rolling their eyes and slamming the doors and doing all this, why would I not ask myself what my part is? Versus saying she's a disrespectful little whatever, which we do. So I love to tell people my daughter is 17 now. And many people, finally I get to say, I can tell you how this turns out. I'm not just talking a pipe dream here. And I just can't even tell you how emotionally mature my daughter is in her capacity to love, to be kind, to set personal boundaries. That's the best one. She can say no to her friends. She can say no to alcohol if she wants to, or she can say yes. She just has this beautiful capacity to have self-love and self-safety. Mm-hmm. So that's what comes out of this.
This safe seat process, is that something that would be appropriate for this venue to share with the audience now? Is that something that you think you could lead us through?
I could. It would be lovely. Yeah. And then I'll make sure that you have a PDF that people can download because I give it out free on my Facebook page.
Oh, awesome.
So I'll make sure we have a link so people can do it. So let's take an example. So do you have a behavior where you get triggered, or do you know one that?
If I'm yelled at, that's a huge trigger for me. I'll either fight or flight from that.
Great. So let's say you're going to make in this practice, and I always call it a practice because I'll be practicing this till the day I die. But your personal practice, the next time someone yells at you, is going to be to take yourself to your safe seat. It's a personal discipline, right? Versus acting, fighting, or flighting. Okay. So the first thing I ask people to do is to choose a safe seat in their home in the middle of the action. This isn't like a meditation thing that we go off. We want it to be in the action. Mine's on my couch, right? So we go to that safe base and you're going to first choose that. So we're going to imagine that you've got one that you've chosen. And so the next time, your little safe state, you're sitting in it, right? And the first piece I ask people to do is actually to keep visiting that safe seat for about a week or so. So they're building this relationship with the younger part of them that needs a safe place to go to express versus acting it out and getting in trouble, because we always feel guilty if we act it out. So let's say someone yells at you And you know you're going to go to your safe seat. You have your personal discipline, and let's say you go over. So you're going to sit down. So you're going to close your eyes here for a minute. So you're sitting in your safe seat, and imagine someone just yelled at you, Christina! I'm going to yell at you so you can feel it a little bit. And you're just going to notice. You're going to imagine, what do you notice happening in your body? When I just told you to get out of here. I don't like you.
Yeah, it feels like there's fire raining down on me.
Good. So just sit there. So you're going to sit there and you're going to notice. First of all, you're going to notice this because you're going to be in your safe seat. And you're just going to feel those sensations and you're going to ask yourself, is it dangerous? Because your mind's probably going to be saying what? What is your mind going?
I have to get out of here. This isn't fair. Why is this happening?
Yep. Yeah, good. So that's all going to be up here. You know, I hate that person. I can't believe they talked to me. What do you do? You know, I was just being nice and I was trying to help them. It's just going to go crazy. Mine's always in my left ear, right? So you just listen and you just go, oh God, baby, I got you. I got you. I got you. But we're just staying right here. So you got this adult part of you. That's the safe seat or the higher power, whatever you want to call it. That's what your safe seat is. And you're just sitting there and you're breathing and you're going, okay, I got you. We're staying here. We're staying here. This is our safe place. This is our safe place. So as you do this, you're just going to keep breathing. Then you're going, okay, I'm feeling this fire, but is it dangerous? So check in right now. Is it dangerous? Is it causing? No.
Really uncomfortable.
Absolutely. So, but just stay. So find out what happens if you just stay with the discomfort. Mm-hmm. And you go, well, if I'm not in danger, why am I acting like I am? Right? Why am I, fleeing or fighting? That would be if I was in real danger. So keep breathing right there. So, you just had a smile. So why am I acting like I'm in danger when I'm not? What would it be like if I just offer kindness? Put your hand on your heart and you just offer kindness to the perspective, the young perspective that believed she was in danger, but right now you're not. So you're going to tell her, it's okay, we can be with this. There is no danger. And feel what it's like to just have your body back and just be able to stay with the intensity, with kindness.
Yes, I feel these feelings and sensations going on, but the chatters come down a little bit.
Yep.
Like the more that we look at this, the less it becomes.
Yes. And the more we offer, and the more you offer kindness, because when you attack your child, you're acting as if they are dangerous. You actually believe that they're a threat, and they're not. And they're looking at you going, whoa, what just happened? I got in the hornet's nest. I don't even know how I got here. All I did was I didn't put my shoe on, right?
I remember being a child and never knowing what my parents wanted from me.
Yeah.
It was like one day I did something and it was totally okay. Mm-hmm. And the next day I would do the same exact thing, at least to my mind, and this firestorm would rain down on me.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that so many parents watching this can remember times like that too, but yet we treat our children as though they should know better. You should know better. What the fuck what does that mean? How do I know better? I'm 4, I'm 5, I'm 14, right?
Yes.
And talking to us and saying this is right and this is wrong doesn't teach.
It never does.
It doesn't. It's only by picking it up and playing with it and trying it on and putting it down and coming back to it, having that experience and that play, do we really know anything for sure.
Yes. And I wasn't able to do that until I began to do the safe seat process around really, when I work with parents, I'll take a specific behavior. Like mine was about being on time. Mm-hmm. I would go crazy. I had to be on time. And my daughter would, of course, go the other way. Every time I was trying to get her out of the door, she's like, I got to go to the bathroom. I was just like, I was a screaming Mimi. And so I made a practice with myself. I said, okay, I'd be standing at the door with all the books, getting ready to go out, and I just would drop them and go to my safe seat. I had to be willing to be late. I had to be willing to all these things, but I would just go, I am not going to play this out one more day where I scream at her and she comes and do the thing. And I would just drop everything and I would go to my safe seat. And all of a sudden I would hear this really young little voice in my left ear going, but if we're late, nobody's going to take care of us and we're not going to get our seat on the bus and we're not going to, and it was like, oh my God, I had a panicked child that was leading the show, right? And my daughter didn't feel safe because I had this panicked child asking her to be safe, right? And I would just sit there with her and go, oh, sweetheart, it's okay. If we're late, I'll talk to the teacher, or I'll get you a seat. My daughter has never had to not go to a camp because I'm the first one in line. I'm there the day before. She doesn't even know that you might not get something in life because that was all from my panic, right? So when I began to safe seat, I realized, oh, we're going to be okay. And then sure enough, my daughter would come down the stairs and she would say, hurry up, Mom, we're going to be late. Every single time, right? So I did this as a practice over and over until I could be so kind to that panicked child that thought the universe wasn't going to support me. I thought if I didn't get there, I wasn't going to get anything. If I wasn't first in line, I wasn't going to eat. Well, these were all stored memories way down in my unconscious that my daughter going the other way and not joining me in my panic triggered. So as I began to grow and learn that I could be with this panicked child, it just gets so yummy because I get to grow up and then I get to be with my actual panicked child, my daughter, right? And say, honey, I'm here. Come to me. Let me be your safe base. I'll give you, I don't know how much time we have, but I'll give you my favorite description of this. So think about when kids are young and they're playing tag, right? When they're 3 or 4 the first time, they're having a great time, they're running around and they're until the tagger is about to get them. And then what do?
I don't know.
They freak out. Have you ever watched them? They freak out. They go, I quit. Or they fall down on the ground and they go, I'm sick, because they're about to get tagged. They're having fun until that amygdala gets kicked in. And they're like, so in the game, we create a safe base for them to go to. So here's the child about to get tagged. And then they run over to the safe base and they hold on. And I always tell parents, the tree doesn't come down with its limbs and go, you need to get back in the game. And if you don't do this, you're not going to make it to college. And you got to do that. The tree is just solid. Right? So that's what we want to be, that safe base. So the kid runs over and grabs the tree. They begin to self-regulate and then they look out and they go, I'm missing the fun. And so then they run back out and they go a little bit further. And then the same thing happens a billion times until finally they want to be the chaser. So I like to tell parents, parenting is kind of like tag. You're having a great time, you're loving it, and then all of a sudden you're about to get tagged by your kid, right? By whatever they're doing, it feels like it. And if you can go to your safe base, which is the safe seat, you can start to stay with yourself and come back into the present, which is not dangerous. You did it there. In the present moment, there was no danger. The danger was only in your mind and your memory, right? And so the more you practice, I'm going to give that to you as a practice. Every time someone yells at you, see if you can make it a personal discipline to go get into your safe seat and find out in this present moment, am I okay? And you will find you are. Then your capacity to be with more intensity with your children grows. And you stop taking things so personally. And it gets more fun. You start playing tag, really fun tag. Because you always know you got a safe base. And then your children, you will be their safe base. But we always created a safe base for my daughter too in the house. Because sometimes I was the threat and then she could go to her safe base.
Mm-hmm. And what does that look like what's your daughter's safe place? Or what could a parent watching right now, how would they go creating
she found her own sort of safe base. Hers was behind the couch and she put a bunch of cushions back there, right? And mine was on the couch. And so we just talked about, I would say to her sometimes, sweetheart, I'm not feeling safe for myself, so I can't be safe for you. So I'm going to go to my safe base. And she knew when I got to the safe base that I was going to get safe. And then after about 30 seconds, she would come over to me. So I could honestly say, sweetheart, I'm going to my safe base. I would show her instead of acting out on her. She would do the same thing if I was coming after her. We made rules in our house that safe base, nobody could come after you. If you were in your safe base, just like at the tree, you give the person a little space, right? So she would go to her safe base if I was starting to come after her, and I would know, I need to back out here. I got to go sit in mine.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing all these practical resources with us today. And you have one more to tell us about, which is your free gift. So would you share with us what that is, please?
Yes. So the free gift that I'm offering is it's a audio that I did, and it's how to stop beating yourself up in your parenting. So it's going to take you just a little bit further than what we're doing today, and it'll be something, a resource that they can have and listen to over and over and over again. It's about 30 minutes, but it's a wonderful one because it talks about the whole mechanism of what happens, why we beat ourselves up, and how to get out of that loop, so we can start parenting from an adult place. It's all about growing ourselves up emotionally. And then I'm also throwing in my free ebook called 5 Parenting Beliefs Busted. So I'm a strong proponent of busting our conditioned beliefs. And this book kind of takes you through, and you can look at how I just give you a different perspective. I say, children need limits and boundaries. What if we saw it this way? And I just flip them.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned the Safe Seat PDF.
Yes, what I'll do, I will make sure in that practice, I'll put a link to where they can find it.
Yeah, so all you have to do is click this link below the video, and you're going to get all 3 resources. So you don't worry about anything. Click the link, enter your name and email address in the box, and Leslie will send you those 3 valuable resources.
Yes.
And Nancy, they are Leslie. Did I call you Nancy?
I'll be Nancy today.
Nancy watching that really needs this resource.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for participating, moms. And before we wrap, is there anything else that you want to share?
Just offer the deepest kindness to your hearts. We're all trying so hard. We're doing the very best we can. So are our children. So keep remembering that.
Awesome. Thank you again. And I'll see you all again with another video. Bye.
Bye.